know that there's a National Day for everything.
Sure
and this
is.
weekend is National Bartender Day.
What?
Yes, I know this is your favorite day.
It is.
So,
I love that it falls on the weekend. Perfect time.
oh, absolutely. That's true. Historian Raffi Andonian is back to give us a little bit of background on this day. Hey, Raffi, always good to see you.
Yeah, great time. Cheers.
Cheers, indeed. Let's talk about how did bartending even become a profession?
Well, in the ancient days, they were called apothecaries, and you find them across the ancient world. And with bartenders known as apothecaries always cracks me up because it's like, you know, it's medicine almost, right? Yeah, exactly. Like alcohol is medicine. But really kind of the way I think we think about it comes from Middle Ages Europe, where you have these innkeepers, you know, like think about like English pubs, which aren't just a bar, but they actually also have a place to stay, or taverns in the colonial days here in the Americas. And so you were expected to kind of brew your own beer, have some whiskey there, or of course rum was very popular in the colonial period. And that actually means that they didn't serve a lot of cocktails. They didn't have a lot of mixed drinks.
Sure.
Possible, but like it's not a common thing at the time.
Shoot it straight.
That's right. That's what you do. So that's kind of the origins of developing that bartender is an innkeeper, the apothecaries kind of things. And of course, you know, you think about in America, the kind of shootouts that happen to these things. There's often a bouncer also.
Sure. Well, too, you know, if you think about it, you know, the bartender are entertaining the people,
They are,
right?
yeah.
So it's just kind of like an extended way to kind of welcome people.
It is, and I think that carries over, that tradition actually when it comes to the U.S. and kind of as U.S. expansion is happening out west. That's a great example actually in the West, because what happens is they're both, they're in a rural area, right? Think about the Western outposts, and when you first arrive to town, you might be the first place to go and gather some information, although they can't talk too much. I mean, they share information, community news, but bartenders are also known for kind of keeping their lips sealed because they do hear a lot of gossip.
Sure, yeah.
Shootouts happen, of course, in the Old West, and now you don't want to be someone that's kind of snitching to the cops. It's really something that came up all the time to the police and the lawlessness that happened. And so as a result, they also had to know kind of when to be quiet. In fact, they would sometimes get in the shootouts themselves. There's a story out west in Texas where the bartender, without saying a word, unhappy with one of the customers, kills him inside the saloon.
Wow.
Stuff like that is why the Anti-Saloon League in Arkansas came up in the late 19th century and into the early 20th century and helped begin prohibition. And Arkansas banned alcohol in saloons really before national prohibition because of these kinds of incidents that were taking place.
It became violent places, or could be. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's talk about this modern craft cocktail and how that came into being. Raffi, how did that become a thing?
Well, speaking of prohibition, it happens because of prohibition. So when you go into prohibition, what happens, of course, is alcohol is outlawed, right? And so as a result, you're drinking a lot of bootleg liquor. Well, bootleg liquor doesn't taste so great. So you got to find a way to mask it. So people, as a result, got creative with the bootleg liquor, putting all kinds of different flavors into it, and that changes the way people drink. Yes, you might have some mixed drinks in sort of the maybe prior few decades, but really this is when it changes. The consumption of liquor changes from being a minority, so people drinking mostly beer and wine, and after Prohibition changes to being about 3/4 of the alcohol that people drank. So liquor takes off because of the cocktail kind of, influence.
Sure.
And that's where we draw and grow on, the cocktail movement today. Mass production of some of the ingredients and mixers that came up after World War II also helped popularize some of these. But of course today, there's this kind of more retro vibe that says we're not going to use like as much of the mass production stuff. We're going to try to use fresh ingredients.
We're going to make it here, build it here, fresh.
And I know there's several great ones in Fayetteville that do so right here. So that's kind of where it begins, though, isn't that Prohibition? Now, the one last thing I'll say is that it's worth keeping in mind what Garth Brooks says, right? When you're going to the bar, maybe this is what you want to do in the Old West style, or maybe not if you're in a craft cocktail mood, but what do you say? He says, I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away.
This is karaoke now, Raffi Andonian.
I feel like that fits perfectly in the old Western bars with the stuff that was taking place, but maybe not what we want to do today when we're enjoying our fine cocktails.
Yes, that's right, absolutely. Raffi, thanks so much for joining us again, fellas. So we love the history that you bring, so we appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, celebrate National Bartender Day this weekend. Go out
safely.
Tip your bar staff when you're out there.
Absolutely. I love that. We'll be right back.